Hi guys, today we're going to be doing some revision. We're going to be looking at an exam paper 1. Okay, so the first part of any exam is to read the instructions very carefully. Answer all the questions. Read the instructions for each question carefully and do only what is required. Number the answers correctly according to the numbering systems used in this assessment or make use of the answer books. Write neatly and legibly. Use a blue pen. All work that you do not want to be marked must be clearly crossed out. Don't scribble it out because we still often like to look at what you were going to write, or if it was rough work or something like that. Just cross it out. So 2 lines from like the top left corner to the bottom right corner, and if it's a paragraph, for instance, and if it's 1 sentence, then just 1 line through the center. 1 clearly scanned PDF should be submitted with all pages in order. That's just for us. Again, when you write your paper, you have to write the following honesty declaration. I hereby declare that this assessment is my own original work and I have not plagiarized any part of this assessment. If you do not include the honesty declaration in your exams, your script will be returned to you unmarked and will only be marked once the declaration is added. Please start a new section, each section on a new page. Name, surname, grade, and class need to be at the top of each new page. Take careful note of the mark allocation for each question. Okay, now it tells you what sections are in this paper. Now, this is quite a simple paper, meaning you just write out, you just answer every question on the paper. But in the instructions, there will always be any changes, if they have been made, changes to the question structure, meaning if you do not read the instructions, you might not know that you're only allowed to answer 1 contextual question and 1 essay question. You cannot answer 2 essay questions or 2 contextual questions. That would be in the instructions, so that's why it's very important to read them as well. Okay, section A is read following comprehension and answer the questions that follow. So you guys have been doing comprehensions for 12 years. You shouldn't have any problem with this. Just remember that you need to make sure that you are looking at the right excerpt. So this is for text A, meaning the text up here. And then we have text B, which is this little poster. And then we have text A and B, so that's looking at both of them. And then another thing to watch out for is the mark allocation. So here you can see how the mark allocation is. It's 2 by 1 equals 2. What does that mean? That means that there are 2 marks available, right? And how do we get those marks? There are 2 1 marks. This means that there are 2 separate things that we are marking 1 point. So you get 1 mark for is the text biased, yes or no, and then the reason. Why do you say it is or why do you say it isn't? What point is the writer trying to make in paragraph 2? Again, 2 by 1, which means there are 2 points we are looking for. Here, in this case, we are looking for what is the point and explain why you think that is. Then look at paragraph 3. What role does power play in cultural appropriation? 2 by 1 again. What is cultural appropriation? This is 1 by 1, meaning just you get a mark for saying what cultural appropriation is. Then we have some 3 by 1s, 1 by 1s, and here we have a 1 by 2. So 1 by 2 means that you get, you only have to have essentially 1 correct point or 1 correct idea, and that gets 2 marks. Meaning that if you get it wrong, you get 0. There's no way to get 1 mark in this question. You either get 0 or 2. Okay. Otherwise, it's just a comprehension. And remember very much, when you're writing comprehensions, you need to look at the mark allocation, see how many marks there are available, and that will determine the length of your answer. So here we have a 1 mark answer. What does the word historical mean? So that's not going to be very long, perhaps 1 sentence long at maximum. And then we have here a 4 mark question, which means it's going to be a long form answer. You can see even from the question. Do they, text A and text B, present a subjective view regarding cultural appropriation? Oh, they do. Do you agree? Justify a response with close reference to text A and text B. So you need to say, I agree or I disagree, and then a justification. So you need to build a little argument there to say why you said yes or why you said no. So it's going to be much longer than one sentence. So comprehensions, just make sure you're answering for the correct text. You're looking at the correct text, and look at the marks. They are very important. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else interesting here. Critically comment. Critically comment on Shriver's Hope just means essentially explain in detail. Here, critically comment on Shriver's Hope that cultural appropriation is a passing fad. Text, lines 45 to 46. So if we go to lines 45 to 46, I hope that the concept of cultural appropriation is a passing fad, and went on to wear a sombrero while staking out her claim to do so. Okay, so now explain that in detail. Critically comment. So you are going to write, I do not agree with this statement, or you're going to just essentially write something about it to show us that you can understand what it is and how it fits into the context of the whole letter. So say, perhaps because of the rest of the writing, you do not agree with it because of X and X and X. Because, let's say, cultural appropriation is not just a fad, it's something we have to be sensitive about. Or you can say what she is talking about is not cultural appropriation. She is using, for instance, cultural appropriation to refer to cultural borrowing, and that makes it seem ridiculous. Or whatever you might want to write, essentially. Critically comment means essentially just comment on this use. Is it good or is it bad, or you think it was a good thing to include in the letter, and critically in detail. Section B, summary. Okay, so remember your summaries. I know it says 7 points and not exceed 90 words, so 7 points you see, and then you write perhaps 7 bullet points. Do not write bullet points in a summary. Never in your exams write a bullet point in your summary. You must write a fluent paragraph. That means that all of your sentences must be full sentences. And it must be in paragraph form. One paragraph, including full sentences. Okay, and here, no title is required, and indicate your word count at the end of your summary. Again, if you do not count your words, then you might get marked down. Okay? And remember that even if you do write your words, we do check. We do count out every single word in the summary. It's very time-consuming, but it's something that we are required to do. So if you wrote 500 words, don't write 89 words. Or if you wrote 6 words, don't write 89 words. The importance of self-confidence, so this is what you are summarizing. Then we have section C, language structures and conventions. Look at the advertisement and answer the questions that follow. Okay, so here we have language structures and conventions. So this is often a dividing line, meaning that some people find this easier than the comprehension and the summary, and some people find it harder. So firstly, here we've got an advertisement. So you're going to analyze this advertisement. What are the advantages of Hewlett's sugar? Here you just read from the text. The advantages are they are concentrated, dissolves quickly, great value. You can see it's a 3x1, which means it's looking for 3 points, each worth 1 mark, to get 3 total marks. 3 points are right there. Quite easy. True or false? Little Hewlett's sweetness goes a long way is the slogan of this advertisement. So remember, true or false. It is always good practice, if you write false, to write the correct sentence. If you write true, no need to write anything else, but if you write false, it's good practice to write the false statement, because sometimes we have questions which are a little bit more vague. And if you write essentially why you say it's false, then sometimes you can get a mark even if we were looking for the answer true. So an example of this is in the recent paper. The question asked, true or false, 5-year-olds who watch television are more violent, right? The answer is true, But some of you wrote false. 5-year-olds who watch violent television are more violent, and that is also correct. So it's always good practice, if you're writing false, to write the correct statement that you believe is correct underneath false. Who is the audience of the advertisement? What is the purpose of the visual and its effective? And is it effective? Comment on the presentation of the phrase Hewlett sweetness as an advertising technique. What is the purpose of the visual? So this is where you need to think laterally. You need to think, okay, well, I am an advertiser and I want my the people who see this advertisement to do something. So what is the purpose of the visual? So here you can look at this visual and say, what is the purpose of it? Well, I think the purpose of this visual, because I'm thinking like an advertiser, is I want people who look at this ad to think of my sugar as being friendly, or they want to associate it with love. So we put a heart there. Or we want it to seem like it's good for you, or it's just the nicest sugar. Right? We've also got a wooden spoon here. It's not really something that you usually use with sugar, a wooden spoon, right? You usually use a teaspoon or a tablespoon or something like that, not a wooden spoon. But a lot of us have an association of a wooden spoon being our mom. Our mom always has her favorite wooden spoon, right? So you've got wooden spoon, heart. It just makes me think of, oh, this is a sweet, nice sugar. Comment on the presentation of the phrase Hewlett sweetness as an advertising technique. So how is Hewlett sweetness presented? Let's look. Hewlett sweetness is presented very specifically as sugar. So it's written like it looks like it's made with sugar, and it's in quite a nice soft cursive, and you can see sweetness is in lowercase. It's not in uppercase, which would make it sound shouting in our heads. There's a lot of different things about it, and all we need you to do is comment on the presentation as an advertising technique. So why is it made in sugar? Because they're trying to connect it with their product. Why is it a soft font? So not very harsh angles or anything like that in this font. Well, because they want it to be associated with sweetness and goodness and essentially love. They don't want it to be too exciting. So you would use harsh angles if you're advertising a Lamborghini, but here they use all these soft angles. And you can see that only Hewlett's has an uppercase letter, the rest is lowercase. Even goes a long way is lowercase. Because they want it to seem not shouty, they don't want it to seem like it is too assertive, because if it's too assertive, then people will associate sugar with something that makes you excited or upset or something like that. Here you just need to think naturally, again. But think like an advertiser. Okay, now we have our visual media cartoons, for better or for worse, this one. So first you got to read your cartoon, then comment on the purpose and effectiveness of the word blast, frame 2. So if we look at the word blast, frame 2, you can see that it's written differently. It's written in these bubble letters, and it's written a bit bigger than the rest of the text. So, what is the purpose of it, and what is the effectiveness of that? So the purpose is to draw in the reader, or to differentiate blast from the rest of the text. And is it effective at doing so? How do we know that frame 4 is on the television? Look at the visual aspect. So the visual aspects is only what you can see. We know frame 4 here is on the television because of the scan lines. That's what these lines are called on an old TV. You can't say we know it's frame 4 because we can see the same lady in frame 3, right? It's just talking about frame 4. What is the visual here that shows in frame 4? It's on TV. It's just the scan lines, that's all. So remember, when we're talking about these different frames, we are talking specifically about that frame. So the answer we are looking for is in that frame. Now, there's also the fact that when we refer to expressions, because a lot of cartoon media is expression of the face or of the body or something like that, we will ask specifically, refer to facial expressions, or refer to body language, or refer to, let's say, hair or clothing or something like that. That means that specifically you can tell that this person is excited because they have raised eyebrows, widened eyes, an open mouth. But if we said, look at their facial expression, and you say they are leaning forward or they are jumping in the air, that's not a facial expression. It's not going to get the marks. So we are specific in our questions, so you should be specific in your answers. Okay. Visual indication again. So this is in frame 7. So here we're going to look at frame 7. What visual indication is it that she is angry? Well, we can say that she has her eyes closed, but she looks like she's shouting because her mouth is open. She is pointing very suddenly, and she is putting her hand on the back of her son and pushing him. So she is saying, essentially, go, take off your clothes, I need to wash them. So the visual indications are her facial expression, i.e. her mouth wide open and her eyes closed, and her head also thrown back a bit, and then her fast-moving hand pointing to direct or command her children. Okay, question 5, language. So question 5 is usually reserved for just pure language. So here we have a little excerpt, and we ask, what is the purpose of the exclamation mark in paragraph 1? So what is the purpose of an exclamation mark? Generally, it's to show surprise, or to show emphasis, or to show fright, anger, all of these hard emotions. What is the point of it here? This has felt like a very long year. I'm satisfied with the old-fashioned 9-to-5 workday, but I need a break. Okay, so they are emphasizing that they are tired, that they need a break. It is for emphasis. Correct the Concord error in paragraph 2, line 4. 2, line 4. Holidays, that highlight of the year, is not for the faint of heart. Okay, what is a Concord error? Concord error means that we have not used the correct form of the verb with a plural. Holidays is not for the faint of heart. Holidays, that highlight of the year, are not for the faint of heart. Are not, because it is a plural. Holidays. That is a Concord error. Rewrite the following in direct speech. She said that you should call it a vacation because you need to vacate and relax. She said that you should recharge your batteries and don't delete them any further. So, these are both in indirect reported speech. Rewrite them in direct speech. She said, you should call it a vacation because you need to vacate and relax. So, that would be in quotation marks, and that's as simple as that. She said, comma, quotation open, you should call it a vacation because you need to vacate and relax, close quotation marks. So this is always going to be the question 5, where we put in mostly just grammar, language conventions, punctuation, and things like that. Tenses as well often go into question 5. So you just need to brush up on your grammar, and you should be set for question 5. Now, it's often not very high scoring questions each one. It's 1 or 2 marks per question. So it's quite simple. What I would recommend you guys do is, if you struggle with another section, let's say you struggle with the summary, then the summary and question 5 are worth the same amount of points. And if you feel like you can remember all of your language structures from grade 1 to grade 12, then go to question 5 first and do it. So that's why we say write each section on a new page as well. It's so that you can actually write them in any order that you want. As long as you mark them and number them correctly, then we can read them and mark them correctly. So if you guys feel like question 5 is easier for you, then spend some time getting that right. You've got those 10 marks in the bag now. Look, it's just what is the purpose of the exclamation mark? Correct a Concord error, direct speech, and future tense, and then you've got 10 marks. It's the same as either one of question 4 or question 3, and it's the same mark as section B. So that's a nice way to start off your exam. Then you can move on to the more challenging ones, like summarizing, or perhaps question 3, which asks you for more analytical kind of answers, analytical. And then, yeah, you should be set. Okay. Then at the end of your exam, always remember to go back and check that you've answered every question, okay? And if you have, let's say you've got 30 minutes left and you finish your exam, it's never a bad idea to go back and look through your answers to make sure you didn't make a silly mistake and lost a mark, or lost 2 marks, for instance. Okay, that's all for today. Goodbye.